What makes a Merry Christmas? What do we need to make a Merry Christmas? Is it money to spend, or can we make it of something else that all of us can more easily spare? In years gone by, we knew a certain John and Mary who got to thinking that money means everything, even to the making of a Merry Christmas. So when there came a December when money was scarce with them, they agreed one night after the children had been put to bed that there should be no Merry Christmas for their family that year. Bravely they set out to fulfill their agreement, but when they came to the very day before Christmas, the eager hopes of the children haunted them and gave them no rest. Coming suddenly face to face, John and Mary said almost together, "We cannot, we dare not, let this Christmas go by without making it as merry as we can, for the children, for ourselves." But how? They found a way, because love always does find a way. It was strange how their will to be of good cheer led them to the discovery of so many simple things without price that were good material for making Christmas merry. Their home, of course, and the love that dwelt in it, also understanding of the drama of sacrifice and real heroism that had been played in that home through the months. But more, the will to be of good cheer quickened their ingenuity. How they flew about the tasks of fashioning this and that out of little or nothing. Christmas came, Christmas went, and between the coming and going, there was joy in that home. Simple joy, it's true, but joy. The first Christmas was a sign of what Christmas should be, made mostly of love and a will to find good cheer. We dare not neglect to let any Christmas go by without making it as merry as we can, for the children, for ourselves. Praying and playing. This is grandmother speaking out of a rich experience with life and a sound wisdom. When times were hard with us 60-odd years ago, and they were harder than you know about even in these days, Father would gather his family around him of an evening and say, "Let us pray." And when we had a short season of communion with God through which we gained new strength and courage, Mother would say, "Now let us play." Then would follow an hour of such active games as Blindman's Buff and Puss Wants a Corner, and later such quieter games as Tic-Tac-Toe and Old Mill. Sometimes other families joined us, and before they started for home, we would make a feast of popcorn. So, praying and playing, we got a spiritual and mental refreshment that made the trials of the morrow seem much easier to face. Seems like to me that this generation of today might get something of value out of praying and playing, just as we did 60-odd years ago. A bit of inspiration. From the bits of verse that you print now and then on your editorial page, writes a friend of the farmer's wife, I've gleaned more inspiration than I can tell you. I can't think of any other way to repay you than to share with you and your readers a helpful little poem that I recently found, author unknown to me. And here is the poem shared with you. Never once since the world began has the sun ever once stopped shining. His face very often we could not see, and we grumbled at his inconstancy. But the clouds were really to blame, not he, for behind them he was shining. And so, behind life's darkest clouds, God's love is always shining. We veil it at times with our faithless fears, and darken our sight with our foolish tears. But in time the atmosphere always clears, for his love is always shining. Blind flying. Dear editor, how much like an aviator's blind flying our lives are. In this time of great confusion, we are in need of a set of instruments that will enable us to fly by faith. An aviator depends on a sparry horizon that tells whether the ship is pointed up or down, or flying on a level course, a sparry directional gyro by which the course is kept, and a radio to get assistance from distant stations. In fog, darkness, and rain, the ship can, with these instruments, keep its course. God has provided a set of instruments for blind flying in life. Instruments that will enable the soul with confidence and assurance to meet and negotiate every storm, fog bank, or night in life. The first is a God-centered philosophy, the fundamental principle of which is that God is sovereign and sufficient for any event of our lives. This is our sparry horizon. The Holy Bible is the directional gyro, a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my pathway, the rule and guide of faith and practice. The third instrument is prayer. In the hour of one's deepest and darkest problem, there is nothing so assuring and comforting as to talk to our Father in heaven. This is the radio of the soul. These three are God's instrument boards for living by faith and not by sight, and this is the victory that overcometh the world. The soul that places the same confidence in these instruments that an aviator places in his will be able to fly safely through the darkest gloom to the journey's end. A Blind Flyer, Oklahoma. Give me the gift of laughter. Dear editor, collecting choice bits of prose and poetry is my hobby, and current magazines are the treasure houses where I get what I like. Delightful passages I happen on while reading I copy in my 10-cent notebook, as I cannot always clip them, much of my reading matter coming from the library. I love to memorize some of these gems to lighten the monotony of work. Give me the gift of laughter, oh I pray, laughter instead of sighs. This line has often cheered the day for me. Never, O God, to be afraid to love, since out of love comes every lovely thing, has often swept anger from my heart. When I thought that happiness was impossible for me, I discovered Joe Jefferson's words, "You must forget yourself in order to please yourself." When I long for a lovely new dress from the delightful woolen materials now being advertised, or a floor lamp to brighten the corner near my favorite chair, or new linoleum for the kitchen, I just reread Grace Noll Crowell's verse. I cannot pray for more than this, a day of simple quiet things, not the bewilderment a dawn so often brings. Not more possessions, Lord, I pray, but calm and simplify my day. One page in my notebook holds Louise Driscoll's verse. Hold fast your dreams within your heart, keep one still secret spot, where dreams may go and sheltered so may thrive and grow, where doubt and fear are not. I just love to sit down for a few precious moments and read here and there in my notebook. Afterwards, I feel as though some hand had brushed away weariness and left refreshment. RME, New York. Home at Christmas. Home is a lovely word at Christmas time, holy like Christ the Lord, a golden chime, of family voices dear in every place, and all the day we hear like saying grace. The whisperings of love, secrets you know, at night in rooms above, small heads bend low, beside their beds to ask for Santa's gifts. There is no work a task the Christ child lifts. The eyes of men from earth to starry domes, and hearts receive new birth in tiny homes. Little Mother, North Dakota. Happy Memories. Dear Editor, I am 19 years old and am indeed thankful for the first 12 of those years were spent on the farm. I pity those who have no childhood memories like mine. Padding down the lane, the cool dust pushing up between my bare toes. Drinking out of cupped palms the water from the crystal spring beneath the giant beech. Bottle feeding the pet lamb, discovering the new kittens in the haymow. Climbing the highest tree on the farm and looking out over the land like a king surveying his dominions. Turning somersaults into the deep, fragrant hay in the newly filled mow. Bursting a red, ripe watermelon over my knee in the deep seclusion of the cornfield and eating it there, warm and sweet. These and many, many more delightful memories make me believe that children who are reared in the country are fortunate. A lover of country life, Indiana. I learned my lesson. Dear Editor, my husband and I are farmers living on the edge of the Dust Bowl. So near the edge, in fact, that the dust fogs over us when it blows. Last spring, after 5 lean years, we thought, this is the year. But harvest came and the wheat was just tolerable. Then the hot winds curled and yellowed the leaves on the corn. In August, pastures were as sere and brown as in November, which meant a diminishing cream check each week. One Sunday morning I was blue. Husband was blue also. Even the children were blue. I said, let's go to Sunday school this morning. We hadn't been since before harvest, so we all dressed in our best clothes and drove in. I hadn't prepared the lesson, so I just leaned back to relax and listen. Suddenly, I was interested. It wasn't just history, it was a lesson for me. When God commanded Moses to lead his people out by the longer, harder route, he had a purpose other than evading the Philistines. He wanted the people to endure the dangers and hardships of the long trip in order to build character and fortitude. He wanted men and women of courage and zeal to make up a nation. He needed leaders. And although their courage and faith wavered at times, and they murmured at their trials, they did not give up, but plodded on to victory. What balm to our tired souls! Victory ahead! And so we will not give up, for God has said to us, even as to the Israelites, go on, I will be with you. Now we sing as we work, and next year is another year. Mrs. C.M., Kansas. Reward. And then he came, my little son, and I forgot the weary, anxious days of waiting, and the pain, and the vain, foolish longings to be slim again. His father held me close. Tenderness and pride shone in his eyes. He kissed me on the lips and took my hand in his. But what he said was commonplace enough. How are you feeling now? We are ordinary folk and cannot always speak the thoughts that fill our hearts. But as we looked at him, and our eyes met, and then again our hands. We knew what love could mean, and faith and hope. And then at last, fulfillment and deep peace. VEM, Nebraska.